My name is Manuel, Graniel, and this is my racial autobiography. It all begins with these two. These are my parents, Manuel and Cheryl Graniel. My father grew up in Mexico, and my mother is Filipino. They met here in Los Angeles and had 5 children. Here are the 5 of us. I didn't think about it much growing up, but my brother coined the term Mexipino, and I thought interesting because it was good. We were Mexican and Filipino. One of the many perks of being of two different cultures is the food. We ate everything. We had Filipino food, we had Mexican food, we had American food. We grew up with a varied palette of just different tastes. I remember one time, I think it was elementary school, maybe 4th or 5th grade. I remember inviting my friend Shad, who was a white kid from the neighborhood, to come over and eat. And we were eating a traditional Filipino dish called tuyok, which is anchovies, and it has a very strong smell. He got maybe 3 feet to the front door before he said, "No, I think I'm going to leave." And that was one of the things that we loved it, and we still love it. But that not being used to certain scents or certain things, it did scare people off when I was growing up. We grew up in a small town in Los Angeles called Burbank, which at the time in the mid 70s was predominantly white. Not many minorities were around when we grew up, and it affected us in many different ways. Both my parents grew up in different countries, speaking different languages. My mother spoke Tagalog and English. My father only Spanish until they came to America, and they both just spoke English after that, unless they're with their family or some old friends. But in the household, we only heard English. We listened to English or American radio. We watched American TV. Only once in a while, when my grandparents would come to visit, did anyone speak Spanish? And so my Spanish growing up was very limited. It wasn't until like later that I started to want to learn Spanish. And that I think that also affected me because people see me and they see either a Filipino or Mexican, but they assume that I can speak Spanish fluently. Yeah, although I'm pretty good, once I started speaking Spanish, people noticed that, oh, no, he's not fluent. As a kid, I remember having lots of white friends and wanting to be white, asking my dad why my name wasn't Scott and said Manuel. So I didn't have that appreciation of who I was when I was a child, and that didn't come till later in life. And I'm glad it did come. It came in college, but there was a point where I didn't like myself when I was growing up, or where I came from, and that I still have a little guilt about that. Growing up in Burbank was different. It was challenging, but good at the same time. It was a suburb. We all felt safe. But being brown was not the easiest thing, especially in high school. I think high school was the toughest for all of us. All of us had stories of being harassed by a random adult, by the police, by teachers sometimes. And there were a lot of good people in Burbank too. A lot of really kind people that helped us out and did not see us as different or anything because we were brown, but it did impact us in some way. It did make me want to work in predominantly minority areas. Being a teacher for Los Angeles Unified School District has helped me realize, how important culture is to myself, as well as culture of my students. I think appreciating where I come from helps me understand where my students and their families come from. And that can only help you become like a more empathetic teacher, I believe. And that's helped me a lot in my profession.